Every time I return to my hometown, I expect the day to be quiet. But life here changes completely when the afternoon heat begins to disappear. Children come outside, neighbors gather in the alleys, small markets become busy, and even an ordinary family dinner can feel like the best part of the day. Today, I want to show you what a real weekend in my hometown looks like. I started the day in my room in Hanoi. I did not have a complicated plan. I only packed a few clothes, checked that I had everything with me, and prepared to ride back to my hometown. Before leaving, I locked the door and brought my motorbike out through the narrow alley. Small alleys like this are common in Hanoi. They may look quiet, but people, motorbikes, and small businesses are constantly moving through them. The road was busy at first. There were houses, shops, and motorbikes everywhere. But the farther I traveled from the city, the wider the roads became and the quieter everything felt. Buildings slowly gave way to trees, fields, and smaller village roads. That change in scenery is always the moment when I feel that I am really going home. When I reached the entrance to the village, the surroundings already felt familiar. The small roads, the pond, and the houses have changed over the years, but they still remind me of the place where I grew up. When I arrived at the house, everyone was already inside. I brought a few small things with me, and the children immediately came over to see what was in the bags. It was a simple welcome, but these ordinary moments are one of the main reasons I enjoy returning home. When I finally arrived home, everyone had already finished lunch. I had forgotten to tell them that I would be coming back, so no one had saved any food for me. It was already early afternoon, and I was too hungry to wait for another meal. So I decided to make the quickest thing I could find, a packet of instant noodles. I boiled some water and prepared the seasonings while I waited. Instant noodles are a common emergency meal in Vietnam when there is no cooked food left in the house. To make the meal a little more filling, I cracked an egg directly into the bowl. Once the water was ready, I poured it over the noodles, covered the bowl, and waited for everything to cook. It was not the lunch I had imagined after the long ride home, but at that moment, anything warm would have been enough. A few minutes later, I carried the noodles to the table and started eating. The noodles were simple, but the soft egg and hot broth made them surprisingly satisfying. I was hungry enough to finish everything, including the last bit of soup. By then, the afternoon heat had filled the house, and the electric fan had been running beside me the entire time. After finishing the noodles, the midday heat became even harder to ignore. I opened the bedroom door and went inside, hoping to escape the hottest part of the afternoon. I turned on the air conditioner, sat down for a moment, and soon fell asleep. My grandparents were also resting in the same room. In many Vietnamese families, several generations may share the coolest room in the house during a hot summer afternoon. After a short nap, I woke up, opened the door, and sat at the table to drink a glass of water. The sunlight was still bright, but the air outside had already begun to feel a little softer. I put on my sandals and stepped into the yard. There were guavas growing on one tree, pomelos hanging nearby, and pigeons quietly moving around the courtyard. It was a simple countryside afternoon, slowly coming back to life after the heat. Before heading out, I stopped by the small fish pond in the yard. I picked up some food and scattered it across the water. Within seconds, the fish gathered below, turning the quiet pond into the liveliest corner of the house. After feeding the fish, I noticed that the harsh summer sunlight had finally started to fade. So I decided to open the gate and head outside to find something cold to drink. The afternoon was still warm, but it already felt much easier to breathe. Even though the sunlight had softened, the narrow village roads were still almost completely empty. Most people here were probably still taking their afternoon naps, but I passed one woman who had already returned to work. I soon reached a small drink shop. The young woman running the shop was both friendly and very cheerful. I ordered my favorite mango and coconut drink and watched her prepare it while I waited. When the drinks were ready, I paid $2.66 for 2 cups and carried them back outside. Cold, sweet, and perfect for a hot afternoon. The barbershop was nearby, so I continued there after buying the drinks. Local barbershops in small Vietnamese villages are usually simple. There is no complicated booking system. You arrive, wait if necessary, sit down, and explain how you want your hair cut. The barber first trimmed the sides and adjusted the shape around the front. After that, I had my hair washed. The sound of running water and the slow pace made this part much more relaxing than I expected. Finally, the barber dried and styled my hair. The haircut cost only $1.14. A visit like this is not only about getting a haircut. People also talk about work, family, neighbors, and whatever has recently happened in the village. When everything was finished, I paid, said goodbye, and continued outside. By this time, the afternoon heat had finally begun to fade. The village looked completely different from a few hours earlier. People brought chairs outside and sat near their homes to enjoy the cooler air. Neighbors talked across the alley, motorbikes passed slowly, and children began gathering near the communal house. The communal house is an important traditional space in many Vietnamese villages. It is connected to the village's history, beliefs, and community activities. But for the children, its large courtyard is also the perfect place to play football. They arrive on bicycles, leave them beside the wall, and begin playing with whoever is already there. There is no grass field, no referee, and no expensive equipment. They only need a ball and enough open space. Around the courtyard, the old bricks, stone objects, wooden details, and large drum show another side of the village. Traditional architecture and everyday modern life exist in the same place. Outside, large vehicles continue passing along the road while local people still dry agricultural products beside it. This mixture of old and new is a normal part of rural life in Vietnam. Before going to the market, I stopped briefly to buy fuel. Then I followed a narrow village road toward a quiet lotus pond. The cloudy sky, calm water, and blooming lotus flowers made this corner feel peaceful. In Vietnam, the lotus is often associated with purity and resilience because it grows from muddy water but still rises clean and beautiful. From the lotus pond, I continued to the afternoon market. This was not a large indoor market. Most sellers simply sat along the roadside with their products displayed in baskets, plastic containers, or directly on sheets spread across the ground. Motorbikes passed very close to both the sellers and customers. To someone unfamiliar with Vietnam, the market may look crowded or disorganized. But local people understand how everything works. Customers stop, look at the food, ask the price, and choose what they need. The sellers usually know many of their regular customers, so conversations often continue beyond the transaction itself. There were many kinds of fruit, including oranges, mangoes, rambutans, bananas, grapes, and watermelons. I also looked at the meat stall before buying some food for dinner. At the vegetable stall, I selected limes and chilies, while the seller chose tomatoes and placed them on a traditional mechanical scale. Unlike supermarkets, the food here is not packaged and labeled in advance. You can inspect everything closely, choose each item, and watch it being weighed in front of you. After buying the vegetables, I stopped at the fruit seller. She selected the fruit, placed it into bags, and talked with me while working. At one point, we both started laughing. That short conversation was one of my favorite moments at the market. I eventually left with several bags of meat, vegetables, and fruit for the family. On the way back, I found a group of men playing Chinese chess in the alley. Chinese chess is popular in Vietnam, especially among older men. A game rarely involves only the two people sitting at the board. Others gather around, watch every move, and give advice, even when nobody asks for it. Sometimes they discuss the game quietly. Sometimes they argue about the best move. And sometimes the sound of a chess piece hitting the board says everything. I brought the food home, but I did not film the cooking because everyone immediately started helping. By the time I picked up the camera again, the meal was almost ready. We placed the dishes on a mat and ate together on the floor, a common tradition in many Vietnamese families. Dinner was simple, but everyone was together. We shared the food, talked about everyday life, and took our time. After spending so much time in Hanoi, moments like this reminded me that coming home is really about returning to the people who know you best. After dinner, there were still dishes to wash. Someone had already started cleaning up, so I joined in. It was a very ordinary end to an ordinary day. I didn't visit any famous tourist spots. I didn't do anything expensive or special. I just returned to my hometown, ate simple food, strolled around the village, visited the market, and spent time with my family. But that's what a real weekend feels like here. It's slow-paced in the hot midday sun, noisy when the village gets bustling, and warm when everyone finally gathers together. Thank you for spending a day with me in Vietnam. See you in the next video. Or if you'd like to learn about the hard work, joy, or lives of ethnic minorities in Vietnam, please leave a comment.